All right, darlings, I'm gonna remedy the mistake that I've made. I did not, I guess I did not really emphasize the chemistry way of finding molar mass and finding number of moles through the dimensional analysis. The way I explained it to you is the way that it makes sense to me as a physics teacher, because we just do it differently. So, but I know that some of you are struggling with dimensional analysis and think that it's just a waste of time. So for those of you who would rather do it the logical physics way, you can do it the way that I'm going to show on this slide. And then for those who would rather stick to chemistry and dimensional analysis, that's going to be the next slide. So right now, this is part of your lab where you were figuring out the number of moles of the chalk that you used while you were writing. What you did, you figured out the mass of the used chalk, and you also figured out the molar mass of that chalk using the formula. So, looking at this example right here, if I know that I have 35.34 grams of copper, this is what I measured, and I need to figure out how many moles that is. Actual mass is the number of moles times the mass of each mole, the molar mass. So, if I'm talking copper, I look up in my periodic table and I see that the number is 63.54, which means that each mole of copper has a mass of 63.54 grams. So since I'm figuring out the number of moles, I can take my mass and divide by my molar mass. So the number of moles in my case is going to be 35.34, and I divide it by the molar mass, which is 63.54. This gives me, and I have to keep all my 4 sig figs here since this is division, so 0.5562 moles. In your case, I think the molar mass was about 1.0 times 10 to the second grams per mole if you keep 2 sig figs, and unless you wrote like a poem or something, you should have used about, I don't know, 0.1, 0.2 grams of chalk. So you would take your actual mass that you figured out by subtracting the initial mass of your chalk and then subtracted whatever was left over. That gave you this mass right here, and then you figured out your molar mass from the periodic table, and that's what you do, you figure out the moles. Alright, so the chemistry way, my dears, through the dimensional analysis, we need to get mole. So what we're going to do, we're going to take grams and we will multiply grams per mole. So, you know, the dimensional analysis requires for the unwanted, if you will, units to be canceled, and here our grams cancel because we're looking for a mole. So then 35.34 is our grams, and then 63.54 was grams per mole, so I flip it and my grams go downstairs and my 1 mole goes upstairs. So again, grams canceled, and I end up 35.34 over 63.54. So I take mass and I divide it by molar mass. Another example, the number of particles. Again, the physics way. If I need to know the number of particles, I just take the number of moles and multiply it by avocado, and avocado is 602 times 10 to the 23rd, right? So if I know that I have 3.4 moles of copper, how many particles is that? Whatever it is, if it's cars, if I have 3.4 more moles of cars, would I be happy? Anyway, so I take my 3.4 and I multiply it by, ooh, I forgot a 0. Bad person, bad person. This is a 0 to keep my sig figs happy. Okay, so 3.40 times 602 10 to the 23rd gives me 2.04, because I have to cut to 3 sig figs, times 10 to the 24th. Technically, when you plug this in, this is what your calculator showed you, 24 blah blah, and then, but it's still 10 times 10 to the 23rd. Anyway, so that is the number of particles. Now the chemistry way with our dimensional analysis. So we're looking for the number of particles. In order to figure out the number of particles, I need the number of moles, and then I take my avocado, which is the number of particles per mole. So if you look over here, we're happily getting rid of the mole. And so that's the number of particles. So particles per mole. If I know that I have 3.4 moles of copper, so I take this 3.4 moles and then multiply particles per mole. Again, mole cancels. Kaboom. Same answer. So there you go. You are required to be able to do the dimensional analysis setup. So take time, those of you you know who I'm talking to, take time to actually write this down this way. And then if the regular kind of common sense way makes sense to you, you can stick to that one too. All right, see you tomorrow.